Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to Remember 11 Age of Infinity. Let's carry on, shall we? At the moment we're doing Yomogi's backstory of how he rescued us all from the plane crash. Junichi, is that you? Dad, here. There's a mountain cabin here, I found it. When I stepped out of it, I saw a boy standing in front of me. It was the boy I happened to catch a glimpse of on the plane. Follow me. By saying this, the boy started walking. I gave my head a good shake, which somehow brought my straying consciousness back into focus. The boy wasn't my son. That's how I was sure it wasn't just my delusion or some mysterious phantom, but a definite, real entity with a solid shape and form. What are you standing around for? The mountain cabin is right over here. Hurry up! I once again lifted Mayuzumi onto my shoulders. With the boy in front of me as a guide, I started walking forward and then... "7:16 p.m. 3 hours after the crash, we had finally reached this mountain cabin. It goes without saying that the boy who guided us here was Yuni. If Yuni hadn't come then, right about now, Mayuzumi and I would probably be peacefully enjoying our final sleep under that snow. You could certainly say that Yuni was our savior, excuse me. It's unfortunate that Mayuzumi, being unconscious at the time, still doesn't seem to understand this. So that's pretty much everything that happened up until now. Did you get all that?" With those words, Yomogi tried to finish off his long speech, but... Wait a second. What about me? What happened to me after you left me there? Wanting to tie up all the loose ends, I asked him again. Yomogi smiled ever so slightly. Of course we went back for you. Yuni gave me a hand as well. You brought you back here from the shorn open airframe. Honestly speaking, it wasn't easy. I may seem pretty energetic now, but back then I was on the verge of collapsing myself. But then, how'd you find the hull? You said you got lost, didn't you? Yuni knew the way. Yuni did? I turned toward Yuni. Behind Yomogi, Yuni was sitting on the spot where Mayuzumi had camped out until shortly before. As his back is to me, I can't see his face. I didn't know whether or not he'd been listening to our conversation either. How did Yuni know where the airframe was? He had a compass on him. A compass? As in the magnet that you used to tell direction? Yeah. Yuni, who'd been thrown out of the plane, had immediately started walking in a straight line away from the crash site, using his compass. I think it was a sound judgment, all things considered, seeing as how there was no place that would have sheltered him from the wind. And it wasn't a situation where help would arrive if he stayed still and waited. That's why he began walking. Of course, he didn't just wander around. Properly confirming the position of his destination and the number of steps, he started walking in the snowstorm. He found nothing in the direction he was heading. If he found nothing in the direction he was heading, he could simply go back to where he started. He sure is something. His judgment isn't like that of an 11-year-old at all. Yuni showed an admirable composure, even more than that of a seasoned mountaineer like me. A weird feeling of suspicion, perhaps, started welling up inside of me. I found myself unable to blindly admire Yuni's efforts. Things like Yuni conveniently having a compass and not losing his cool after the shock of the crash. If you put it together, you couldn't help but think that there was something unusual going on. Well, anyway, searching around like that, Yuni coincidentally discovered the shelter cabin. What's important is that he remembered the direction that he'd walked in, along with the number of steps he took to arrive here. And that's why you were able to find the crash site where I'd been left behind. Is that it? Is something bothering you? No, not really. I said that, but in reality innumerable things are still bothering me. In today's conversation, nobody had mentioned even once how Yuni had managed to find Yomogi and Mayuzumi. Moreover, even if it were possible for Yuni to return to his own starting point, that didn't necessarily mean that I was easy to find again amongst the snow. Looking at the probability of all these occurrences, it would seem like even the word miracle would be an understatement to describe all that had happened. It felt like the work of some invisible power, like we might have been led to this cabin inevitably. An invisible power. What it could be, I have no idea. I see, I murmured as I brought the cup close to my lips. The chamomile tea inside had become cold by now. Ah, that's right. I forgot to say something important, didn't I? Once it hit me, I lowered my head. Wiping my lips and correcting my posture, I spoke. Thank you. Huh? I'm showing my gratitude. Thank you very much for saving me. Hey, cut it out. I'm no good with heartfelt thanks and stuff. Besides, if you want to express your gratitude, shouldn't it be to him? Yomogi stuck out his thumb and pointed it towards Yuni, who was sitting behind him. I stood up and went closer to Yuni. Yuni had curled up into a ball in front of the stove. The way he held his head made it difficult for me to see his face. I squatted down beside him and spoke. Yuni. Yuni? Yuni didn't reply. Leaning down, I lightly shook him by the shoulder. I took a peek at his face. Crouched in place, Yuni was breathing evenly in his sleep. Thank you, Yuni, I said in a soft voice. In reality, I felt like I wanted to hug him from behind and roll around with him on the floor. I was overwhelmed with a feeling of gratitude, one that could not be conveyed by thousands or even tens of thousands of words. That we're even alive right now is thanks to him. Yuni and Yomogi. I gently embraced Yuni's body and laid him down on the bottom bunk. I placed several blankets on top of him and then a few more for good measure. Yuni tossed a bit in his sleep as he mumbled something. I quietly removed his glasses. Now then. Holding Yuni's glasses in my hand, I wander aimlessly around the cabin. The emotions welling up inside me, seeking an outlet, are driving me to walk around in circles. This is a passionate feeling of gratitude, and I need to convey it to someone, somehow. But who? Well, of course, Yomogi-san. With an almost indecent cry, I jumped onto Yomogi's back without warning. Gah! Our limbs entangling, we tumbled, rolling around on the floor. Yomogi-san, Yomogi-san. Hey, come on, what's getting into you? Stop it, Uyukawa, stop it. Stop, please, come on, stop. I won't stop, I won't stop. Just what are you trying to do? What's gotten into you? What? What's the meaning of this? There is no meaning, I'm just expressing my feelings. Expressing your feelings? Hey now, don't you be hasty, Uyukawa, we're not in that kind of relationship yet, you know? Even tough guys like me can't take this kind of wear and tear. Oh, cut it out. Roll, 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 hug, 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 hug. My expression of my feelings continued for a while afterwards. Have you calmed down? Yes. After my outburst ended, I felt embarrassed right away. It was a little awkward. Yomogi stared at the wall, seemingly half shy and half shocked. Inside the cabin, the silence continued. I drank the last of the chamomile tea and found myself with nothing else to do. Clinging is prohibited. Perhaps he was the type to hold a grudge. That's not it. What are we going to do from now on? What, you say? It's not like we can stay in this cabin forever, right? You must have some good ideas, right? You're a pro mountain climber after all, Yomogi-san. Yomogi shrugged his shoulders. Don't you know where we are? For example, a mountain you visited in the past. I'd be happy if a coincidence like that had happened, but unfortunately in that snowstorm, finding out the specific location was... That's right. Isn't there anything we can use in this cabin, like a map? I've already searched everywhere. I was at a loss. I was happy before, but our situation might be even more hopeless than I imagined. I searched in my pocket for anything that might serve as a clue. All I found was a voice recorder. I guess that's to be expected. After all, if something I'd been carrying had turned out to be a clue about this cabin, it would just be scary. The playback display only reads Data 1 and Data 2. Having recorded Data 1 myself, I already know what was on it, but I played it back even so. I'm a seagull. These were the words uttered by the first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova. All alone aboard the former Soviet Union space station, Vostok 6, floating in the void of space, a place of complete silence and emptiness. It was my voice, although that was obvious. And then Yomogi too took out something that appeared to be a machine from his breast pocket. While continuously staring at it, he shook his head slightly and laid it on the table. At first I thought it was a wristwatch, but it was a little bigger than an ordinary watch. It also had many different attachments that looked like it would be cumbersome. Was it some sort of computer terminal? The liquid crystal display was showing figures that I didn't know the meaning of. What's that? A GPS. Well, simply put, it's a device that shows the coordinates of our current position. Huh? Isn't that great? It would be if it worked. Meaning... things busted. Heartbroken, I dropped my shoulders. The shock of the crash is probably what did it in. It isn't completely broken, but it only displays messed up coordinates. As for fixing it, if I could do that, I would have a while ago. And this thing was pretty expensive too. Yomogi let out a sigh. I sat back down in the chair. I wish you wouldn't thoughtlessly show me broken and useless things. The momentary hope I'd had caused my despair to return stronger than ever. My tongue sharpened with disappointment. I began to murmur sarcastically. Then why are you still holding on to something like that? It's an old habit. I'm always carrying it around after all. Yomogi looked at it with a bitter smile as I tilted my head. What a weird old guy. A normal person wouldn't carry something like that around. Well, as to our location, I've considered a few things. Yes. I've tried to remember the situation before the crash. I don't think 2 hours passed from the time we took off from Haneda to the crash. It was about 1 to 1.5 hours, right? If I were to guess on the flight's course, I'd say there's a high chance that we're on a mountain in Tohoku. Aomori, Akita, Iwate, most likely somewhere around there. It's no good, that's too vague. The air is thin, so I think we're pretty high up. It'll probably take a while for our rescuers to arrive. After saying that, Yomogi smiled as if to comfort me. Hey, don't worry. The fact that there's a cabin, it means that this is a place where people come. Hearing that, I mustered a thin smile in return. Of course, I wasn't reassured by what Yomogi said, as I thought the situation was pretty bad. Is this place really in Japan? That's an odd thing to say, why do you ask? Somehow it feels like this isn't reality. For a lady from the big city, it's not odd that you'd think that. Hearing his slightly teasing tone angered me just a little. In that case, it was like I was totally helpless by myself, wasn't it? I know where this place is. Yuni slowly got up from the bed. Though he still seemed partially asleep, he spoke with conviction as he rose. It's called Mount Akakura. Huh? I looked at Yuni's face, surprised. Yomogi was wearing a perplexed expression as well. How do you know that? Yuni's thin lips curled into a smile. His face without glasses was the most childish I've ever seen it. Even so, with a distant look in his eyes, he laughed as if he was the only one who understood everything. I thought his facial expression was strange somehow, and my spine suddenly tingled. Yuni? Yuni stood up unsteadily without answering. Walking uncertainly, he turned to the entrance. Yuni? Hey, where are you? Come, follow me. Yuni smiled again. He was facing us, but his eyes weren't focused on us. Where is he looking? I'll tell you. Yuni opened the door. Strong wind and snow blew into the cabin. Yuni's figure disappeared into the white landscape. Hey, wait! Yomogi went after him, with me following right behind. The snowstorm hits my cheeks with amazing force. Pain. More than the cold, what I felt was pain. I couldn't see in front of me, my eyes wouldn't open at all. Yuni! I tried to yell, but my voice was erased by the wind. Yuni! And then something pulled at my hand. I looked up and saw Yuni. There. His finger pointed to beside the cabin's entrance. I saw something with my freezing eyes. Mount Akakura Emergency Shelter Cabin. Well, that's good. That was quite a trick. I didn't notice it at all because of the snowstorm. You got me. Jeez, Yuni, don't scare me like that. In the short time I'd been outside, my body had become frozen through and through. It was impossible to keep the shivering out of my voice. Forgetting to wipe off the snow that clung to me, I rushed to the stove. What do you mean? Never mind, it's nothing. Yuni squinted and followed me. His eyes seemed to swim. Hey, before that, glasses. My glasses. Oh, sorry. I picked up the glasses from the table and returned them to him. What's all this fuss about? Mayuzumi had gotten up. Yomogi explained to her about figuring out where we are. That means we can escape now, right? Escape? We know where we are, right? We can climb down now, can't we? It certainly felt like what she said was overly obvious. No, it's impossible. Why? All we know is the name of the mountain. I've never been here before. We don't know the route down. Mayuzumi pointed in Yuni's direction with their chin. That bread over there is a compass, right? If we use that, it seems the conversation between Yomogi and myself earlier had reached her ears alright. However, Yomogi shook his head and glared balefully at the doorway. If we could do something just because we have a compass, we wouldn't be having any trouble. Walking around that blizzard would be suicide. Waiting quietly to be rescued is the best plan. Displeased, Mayuzumi let out a snort and again retreated to the top bunk. Continuing her nap, maybe. I kind of understood how she felt. We don't know the name of the mountain we're on, but that didn't lead to any sort of solution at all. I continued to try to think of something else we could do. However, everything I thought of, Yomogi had already tried. It seems there was no method to establish contact with the base of the mountain. Fortunately, the cabin's basement still had a decent stock of firewood remaining. If there's some fire remaining, then we're alright when it comes to water. We just have to melt some snow. It wasn't a great amount, but there was a supply of food stored in there as well. If we ration it with 4 people, we can endure up to 4 days, said Yomogi in an attempt to keep my courage up. After that, All we can do is patiently wait for the blizzard to stop and the rescue team to arrive. Hey, I'm hungry. That's right, let's eat. I'll help. There's nothing you can really help with. While laughing, he picked up the cardboard box in the corner of the room. I followed behind him. I peeked into one of the 3 cardboard boxes that were there. Inside were a number of little packages, each smaller than the first. There were freeze-dried emergency provisions. There was stew, seasoned porridge, and rice. I took one in my hand and checked the expiration date. It seemed to be totally fine. It seemed freeze-dried food could be preserved for up to 10 years. I'm thankful for the wisdom of mankind. Beside those, we found some hard-tack biscuits as well. Feeling slightly nostalgic, I don't know if this is an important choice. It doesn't seem like one, but fuck it. Try eating it. I opened the packaging and put some hardtack into my mouth. There was no taste at all. The moisture inside my mouth was sucked away, drying it out completely. Yuck! There were emergency rations, so I guess that was to be expected. Hey now, there are precious rations, so value them more. That's right, we only have 4 days worth of food. I'm sorry. Lucky you, Kokoro, I want some too. No way, this is confiscated. Stingy. Yomogi placed the biscuits back in the cardboard box. Yomogi pulled out an aluminium pot from the box beside it. It seemed somewhat flimsy, but if we're all going to be using it for his heating things, then it would be just fine. Well then, please put some snow in this pot. Got it. I'll go. Yuni snatched the pot from my hand. Ah, geez, Yuni. Ignoring my cry, Yuni walked nimbly to the entrance. When he opened the door, another freezing gust blew in. It's cold. Mayuzumi complained from her bed. Inside the cabin, the wind swirled the snow it was carrying around. Carried by the wind, a newspaper flew out of a box and fluttered into the air. I picked it up without a second thought, and then one of the articles inside caught my eye. Hey, it's us. July 4th, Monday, 2011. Heisei 23. 3 decomposed male and female corpses found on Mount Akakura. That's us. But no boy. The boy's not there. Missing passengers from the Howl crash? My throat went dry. My heart was pounding like a hammer. It wouldn't calm down. It's strange. Something was strange. There was something wrong with this newspaper. No shit. Date? Yes, it was the date. And many other things. Today's date is in Heisei 23. In other words, it should be January 11th, 2011. However, this newspaper's date was July 4th, 2011. That shouldn't be. It's impossible. My breathing became pained. Wheezing sounds came from my throat. It was like my body wasn't my own. The hand holding the newspaper was trembling. Even so, I frantically read the article. The Aomori Prefectural Police announced the recent discovery of the remains of 3 men and women on Aomori's Mount Akakura. Believed to be the victims of the crash of Flight HAL 18, which claimed 27 lives last January. As they had undergone extensive decomposition over a period of 6 months, the identities of the bodies are unclear. But they are assumed to be the last 3 unaccounted for among the missing passengers and crew members on HAL 18. The bodies were discovered 1 kilometer east of Mount Akakura shelter cabin. It has been confirmed that the 3 bodies, which sustained a large number of lacerations in an avalanche days after the crash, are those of the survivors. However, due to the bodies of the victims being discovered away from the route down the mountain, the Aomori Prefectural Police investigation into the day of their death will continue. According to the Aomori Weather Observation Department, an avalanche affected Mount Akakura and its surroundings area occurred on January 17, 2011, around 6:53. After analysing the traces left at Mount Akakura shelter cabin, it was concluded that those who had used it survived for 7 days after the crash. The horrific crash of Flight 18, with the discovery of the 3 bodies, claimed 30 lives out of the 31 crew members and passengers aboard. So Yuni was the only survivor. 31 passengers, 30 deaths. Saved was the sole survivor of the crash. Kusuda Yuni, 11. What's happening? What is this? My voice grows hoarse, my entire body begins to tremble. It's weird. As I thought, the newspaper is weird. Hey, what's wrong? Hey! Someone was calling for me. The voice seemed far away. My shoulders trembling. I shook that off, but the trembling ran into my fingertips instead. The identity of the 3 discovered bodies. They are Yomogi Seiji-san, 35. Mayuzumi Lin-san, 23. Uyukawa Kokoro-san, 20. Everything turns black. From within the core of my brain, my consciousness recedes to somewhere far, far away. Is this a dream? Yes, it's a dream. If it wasn't, we're gonna die. As I thought that, an intense feeling of anger boiled over from within me. Lies. Lies. It's obviously this thing's lying. It's a lie. It's a lie. This has to be some sort of mistake. I tried to blot it out, and then I gripped the newspaper more tightly. Huh? My body flinched in surprise at hearing the sudden sound. There were fragments of a broken cup at my feet. Why were there cups? Had there even been cups like this in the cabin? No, I shouldn't have been holding any cups in the first place. What I was holding was that cryptic newspaper. What are you doing? Now we're back in the dream world? Yeah. Surprised again, I turned my head in the direction of the voice. What's wrong? Are you okay? All of a sudden I saw the brown-skinned woman who had slapped me in my dream. Where? I was confused. Sort it out. I have to sort it out. The things inside my head, sort them out. The more I tried, the more of a mess it seemed to become. Calm down. Calm down, uyukawa Kokoro. Then the brown-skinned woman rushed over to me. Could it be that your body still hurts, but the pain reliever should still be in effect? Where does it hurt? She peered worriedly at my face. Where does it hurt? Nowhere, really. I shook my head reflexively. I see. You surprised me. The woman knelt in front of me and started to pick up the fragments of the broken cups. She glanced at me and then looked at me with a worried expression on her face. You aren't injured? I thought she hated us now. Her kind behaviour left me bewildered. It was totally different than before. What is this? I asked as I shied away from the woman. How careless. Yuni was there. He looked at me with a teasing smile. I surveyed my surroundings. It wasn't the shelter cabin. Something came back to me. This room, too, had been in the dream I had before. Inside the room, there were two people beside myself. I remember seeing these two. The two people are the same as in the dream from before, the brown-skinned woman and Yuni. In addition, beyond the living area, a single girl casually appeared. I remember seeing the girl, too. It's the killer, Inubushi Kaiko. Everyone stared at me with suspicion in their eyes. What's happening? That's my line. What happened, Satoru? Satoru? It was a name I'd heard somewhere before. But where I'd heard it, I can't remember. Or is it just my imagination? The name Satoru is pretty common. No, something like that doesn't matter. Just what does this mean? If I remember correctly, I was reading a strange article in the newspaper. In the article, it had information about the plane crash, as well as information about Yuni being rescued. And it was written there that I was going to die. I don't remember anything after that. I was at my wit's end. I wondered what happened to me after I saw the newspaper. I wondered what I did then. Are you really okay? The brown-skinned woman softly placed her hand on my shoulder. No. I shook it off unintentionally. However, I saw the woman's uneasy expression and what I did became inexcusable. I'm sorry. I was probably seeing the same dream again. The dream I'd had before. I regained consciousness in the shelter cabin. That time I saw my own appearance in the glass. It can't be. That shouldn't be. Praying that, I ran over to the large window on the south side of the living room. The window should reflect my appearance like a mirror. It certainly did reflect it. Not me, but a man I'd never seen before appeared there. In the last dream, the last thing I saw was this man. No way. Lies. It wasn't a lie. The man reflected in the window made the exact same movements as myself. He shook his head as if saying no, no, and covered his mouth in shock. And I saw myself right away. This is me. That shouldn't be. Something like that can't possibly be. Satoru, what's wrong? Yuni stood right beside me. He looked up at me. I felt as if Yuni had grown shorter somehow. Yuni had gotten smaller. No, it was me who'd gotten bigger. Where is this place? I grabbed Yuni by his slender shoulders. Violently shaking, I questioned him. Yuni's face became distorted. It hurts, it hurts! Stop it, don't use violence! The brown-skinned woman clung to me. It hurts, it hurts! Suddenly tears started flowing from Yuni's round eyes. I became panicked and released him. Strange. I don't remember gripping him that tightly. Hey, please, someone answer me. Where is this place? I don't know. Huh. Don't get mad, I really don't know. I turned to the brown-skinned woman. I asked with my eyes. An institution. There was an unpleasant feeling in the woman's tone. Institution? What institution? She turned her eyes away from me. The next word out of her mouth was a shocking one. SPHIA. Huh? SPHIA. That's all I need to say, right? SPHIA, you say? Of course I knew of an institution called SPHIA. The place where Inabushi Kaiko was being held, an institution where the mentally unsound were isolated. The place where I was supposed to go. If the airplane accident hadn't occurred, I would have arrived at SPHIA with no problems. Are you saying this is SPHIA? Why am I at SPHIA? Satoru, you should know that, right? Yuni had become frightened by my violent attitude from a little while ago. Hey Yuni, you've been saying Satoru since before. Who are you talking about? Huh? Yuni's eyes widened. Following his gaze, my eyes met the glass window that had reflected the figure of the male me. Even now, there was a man standing beside Yuni after all. It wasn't reflecting me. Yuni's eyes were looking at the man reflected in the window. In other words, Satoru was me. I approached the window one more time. I was being looked at with eyes I've never seen before. It was quite a fearless face. Cheeks and nose, mouth and forehead, I touched everything I saw. The man reflected in the mirror made the exact same movements. As a test, I stuck out my tongue. The man did the same. Contemptuous laughter surrounded in the air for a moment. We had a staring contest. Various facial expressions were made. Save. I don't think we should try getting angry. Smile. The man beamed a lovely smile. I feel sick. This can't be. I wanted to cry. The man reflected in the mirror gave a smile that looked almost tearful as well. A pathetic face. I became a guy. Muttering that, something suddenly hit me. Hey, where's the bathroom? There's one in each of our rooms, right? I won't understand if you say each of our rooms. The woman shook her head as though shocked. Each of our rooms means each of our rooms. Where are they? Where? You already know that, don't you? It's no good, our conversation's going nowhere. I started running. If this building is the same as the one I dreamt I had before, I have at least a general idea of where it is. While running, I thought, it's a little hard to run, isn't it? I found the bathroom and rushed inside. It seems my body's sensations are different than usual. My shoulder slams into the door frame at full speed. It hurts. But now's not the time for that. I opened the bathroom door. Timidly, I brushed my body over my clothes. It was solidly built, but it seems the body didn't get that much bigger. Medium build, average height, somewhere around there. For a woman like me, that was plenty built, however. My chest didn't stick out the way it should. It was a little bit of a shock. There was a sense of incompatibility with my lower half, to be precise, the area between my legs. My cheeks grew hot with embarrassment. No, this isn't the time to feel embarrassed by this. With my heart beating a little fast, I took off the belt on my trousers. I pulled down the zipper, lowered the trousers. This is unpleasant. Yeah, this is an emergency situation. An emergency situation. While I desperately persuade myself, I gripped the elastic of the waistband and pulled it back. I stole a glance downward to the interior of my pants and... The world spins, my consciousness fades. Geez, I don't want to believe anything anymore. KO. I have a dick now. When I opened my eyes, I was looking at an unfamiliar ceiling. I'd been sleeping in a bed. My head hurt. I checked it right away and felt a bump. Moreover, what a horrible dream. Becoming a man, that doesn't happen outside of nightmares. Just then I sensed a person's presence right next to me. There were eyes staring this way. I rose with a start. The person standing next to me was not Yomogi or Mayuzumi, nor Yuni. It was Inabushi Kaiko. I jumped up in panic. But Inabushi Kaiko looked even more panicked than I was. Maybe she had been surprised when I suddenly jumped up, but her body shook so hard that she fell from her chair she was sitting on. She looked at me with frightened eyes. She didn't look at the least bit like a brutal murderer. Thanks to that, I relaxed and lowered my guard completely. It seemed I'd fallen into another dream. Fainting in a dream and then waking up in a dream, it was a strange feeling. I sighed deeply. I'm sorry for surprising you. Bowing slightly, Inabushi Kaiko shook her head. Somehow she gave off a rather docile impression. She was completely different from what I'd imagined after reading the file. Of course, it was a dream after all. Inabushi Kaiko stood up and walked over to the desk. I looked around the room. I'd fainted in the bathroom and lost consciousness, it seemed. If they'd found something like that attached to the lower half of their body, I'm sure anyone else would faint too. Clinging to that small hope, I tried shifting my lower body. As I had thought, there was an incompatibility. It seemed I was still a man. It was a dream after all. I was having a dream where I was in SPHIA. That was why it wasn't strange for Inabushi Kaiko to be here. If it was a dream, then I would just have to defy it. That way I'd probably wake up. Inabushi Kaiko turned to face me and hesitantly offered her hand. In it was a glass. It was full of water. For a moment I didn't know what she was doing. It seemed that she had brought some water for me, and even though I had noticed this, it took me a while to realize. I took it, confused. Thank you. Inabushi only nodded. I didn't know if she'd slipped poison into the water she'd brought me, and was a little hesitant, but in the end I drank it. Maybe it's poison, but fuck it. It was a dream, so it didn't matter if there were any poison in it. I chugged it down in one gulp. I seemed to be thirstier than I'd expected. The water was delicious. Inabushi quietly stared at me without breathing. She seemed to be looking at my complexion. Inabushi said? When I called her, Inabushi shook her head. What? Inabushi looked around the room and picked up the notepad on top of the desk. She enthusiastically wrote something on it. Not long after, she hesitantly presented me with the notepad. I took it without quite understanding why. Not Inabushi. Hattori. What was written. Now that you mention it, you can't speak, can you? But Hattori? What's that about? Inabushi took back the notepad, this time ran the pen over it slightly rudely. My name is Suzukage Hattori. Suzukage Hattori? The girl nodded sharply, but I was sure I hadn't seen her name wrong. This girl, she's Inabushi Kaiko. Is she lying? If so, why? I observed the girl who had introduced herself as Hattori, sorry. The girl turned her eyes toward me. It didn't seem like she was lying. Then it occurred to me. This girl has DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder. Inside Inabushi Kaiko there were multiple personalities. In other words, Suzukage Hattori was a separate personality of Inabushi Kaiko. Furthermore, it was possible that whenever she became Suzukage Hattori, she suffered a temporary loss of speech. If aphasia was a mental problem, then Inabushi Kaiko being able to talk while Suzukage Hattori couldn't was very possible. Another possibility was the main personality, Inabushi Kaiko, had become unable to talk for some reason. In the meanwhile, I decided to go along with her. It didn't matter how many times I tried saying "You're Inabushi Kaiko" to her, as the Hattori personality probably didn't even know her. It had been established that in the case of a person with multiple personalities, the different alters were not conscious of each other. No matter how one might try and explain it, it would probably be useless. I felt a little sorry for her. It was possible she was suffering in her own way too. No, wait. This is something from inside my dream. It was not certain that the real Inabushi Kaiko had another personality named Suzukage Hattori within her. Yes, this is just another dream I'm having. It was only a dream, so it shouldn't be impossible for anything to happen. I understand then, Suzukage Hattori-chan. I tried to talk as gently as possible. The girl blinked in surprise and answered my call. My name, how do you know it? Even if it was an absurd dream, it originated from the experiences and observations of my brain's memory. In other words, even if they were unconscious, they were things I knew. They were things I'd experienced in the past, even if I didn't remember them. Before Yuni, the Yuni that was at SPHIA, that is, had called me Satoru. Had I met a man named Satoru in the past? I shouldn't have known anyone called Satoru well enough to see them in my dreams. Hattori tilted her head. She probably didn't know. What to do? At a loss, I put my hand to my face, and a dull pain ran through my head as I touched the bump at the back of it. Ow, ow, ow! Hattori quickly got up from my bedside to pick up a wet towel. She gently placed it under my head. It was pleasantly cool. The pain receded. Ah, thank you. Hattori nodded sharply, expressionless. Have you come too? This time the brown-skinned woman entered the room. She saw me being nursed by Hattori and laughed gently. Earlier you suddenly let out a scream and fainted. I was surprised. And with your trousers undone. The woman's smile became strained for just a moment. I became aghast. Now that she mentioned it, I had certainly fainted in an extremely embarrassing position. No, the body itself isn't mine. I'm sorry. I apologized by reflex. The woman was wrapped in a kind atmosphere that seemed to be able to forgive anything. Now that I thought about it, I still hadn't heard her name. You haven't told me your name yet, have you? The woman's expression became a little tenser. I see. What does I see mean, I wondered. However, the woman changed back to her radiant attitude at once. My name is Utsumi Kali. Kali. Nice to meet you. Kali? I was wondering if she was half Japanese at all. A name I'd never heard before. Why were people I didn't know appearing, even though it was my dream? You are... Huh? Can you tell me your name again? I am... Uyukawa Kokoro. As I expected. Huh? Utsumi bent down and glanced at my face. Her eyes were fixed, looking straight at me. Calm down and listen, okay? What? You have DID. Have you heard of it? Dissociative... I know what it is. I see, it's obvious to think that. You're Fuyukawa Kokoro-san at the same time, Yukido Satoru-san. I said I know. Interrupting Itsumi's words, I got up from my bed. I had DID? Yes, that might have been true. Seeing as how even though I was a woman, I had a man's body, but something like that didn't matter. This is a dream, so having DID wasn't a big deal. It was probably because I was unconsciously thinking about Inabushi Kaiko. Now that I thought about it, before I got onto the plane that crashed, I remember being really nervous. The nervousness over interviewing a murderous monster, such a rare and horrific killer, had burned itself into my brain, and thus, I had a dream like this. Ah, Satoru, you're awake. This time it was Yuni who entered the room. After seeing me, he called me Satoru without hesitation. Yukido Satoru. I was mistakenly called that even at the shelter cabin. Hey. Yuni hesitantly looked up at me. It was probably because I scared him earlier. Are you okay? I wanted to say the same thing right back to him. Yuni didn't look so good. His face is awfully pale. Satoru, right? I let out a sigh. Explaining that I was Fuyukawa Kokoro yet again was a bother. He wouldn't believe me anyway. I had DID after all. It was a dream, so who I was didn't matter. That's right. It seems that way. My head was throbbing again a little. Was this pain a dream too? Even though the feeling was so clear, thinking that way I got a little scared. This is really a dream, isn't it? My eyes met Hotori's. DID. There was a possibility I really did have DID. In that case, it would explain why I was at SPHIA, as if it were natural. It could also explain the attitude Utsumi and the rest had taken toward me. This dream, this institute, Inabushi and Utsumi, they're all too real. Were dreams this vivid even possible? Lucid dream? My head hurts. I'm confused again. For the sake of argument, if this is a dream, where's the real me right now? Maybe the plane accident was a dream as well. No, I think that part's real. I certainly got into a plane accident, and right now I shouldn't be sleeping in the shelter cabin. I should be sleeping in a snowy cabin on a snowy mountain. But that newspaper, in reality there's no explanation for it. Just what was that? You could also say that this is reality and the shelter cabin is a dream. It's possible to think that too. Is my real body a boy's? Which would mean that I was a boy originally, meaning the personality of the woman called Fuyukawa Kokoro was born inside and only existed in the man named Yukido Satoru. I'm sorry. Let me be alone for a while. No matter how much I think, I can't understand any of this. I don't want to think about anything anymore. If this is a dream, I want to hurry and wake up. Staggering, I left the room. Alright, we need to wrap this one up. I let it go on way too long again. But I wanted to get to a nice stopping point, and this is still not ideal, but it will have to do. Because we're nearly 40 minutes in, and I'm done. Anyway, thanks for watching, Bruce, and I'll see you in the next one.